Here we are, the new homestead, a tiny little house located on 3 acres, just a bike ride away to town. It's a clean slate here. We have a star fruit tree we've been harvesting from, we have a couple coconut trees, we have a ton of avocado seedlings that need help, and this house here, it's still connected to the grid. We have electric appliances and a septic system. I'm in the early days here on this homestead, and it's brought up a few things that I thought it would be good to share with you all who are starting homesteads of your own, which is actually something that you could do from anywhere. All we're really trying to do is become producers again, starting with where we live. And that's all there really is to it. And that means anyone could do it from anywhere, whether or not you have 3 acres, a half acre, or you just have a balcony on your apartment. You can begin homesteading today. But before we go out there and start doing, it's best to begin with a plan. A plan will save you a lot of time and money by not having to do things twice. Trust me, it happens. So how do we come up with a good plan? It starts with observation. I haven't done much yet on my property because I'm still learning about it. The weather here is a lot different than my old place, which is just 20 miles away. The soil has different requirements, and the animal and plant life is not the same. It's best if I just stand back and watch and listen for a little while, to let the land tell me what it needs. I know it's hard. We really just want to start doing, but observation will lead to clarity on what to actually do next. For instance, the first thing I observed upon moving into this place was that we were back on the grid again, and we were paying electric bills on appliances that had no business ever being made. They were energy hogs, so I wanted to fix that right away. So I got a solar cooker and installed a clothesline. 2 simple solutions that had a huge impact on our energy usage. We were able to cut out the clothes dryer completely with this revolutionary device right here. And I've cut my oven use down to 20% by relying more on the solar cooker. But one observation leads to another, and I quickly realized I needed to set up a compost system. We were cooking right away from day one when we moved into this house, and we had a lot of vegetable scraps that we needed to find something to do with. So after some observation, paying attention to where our flow was and our energy patterns and where possible future things might go, we finally created a compost bin here where we can have a place to put our kitchen scraps. And so right away, we are composting and building soil for when we actually get those future projects started. And if you live in a really small space, you can compost with worms or bokashi. I'm hoping to set up a worm composting system at my place real soon. And when I do, I'll be sure to make a video for you. In Hawaii, the tricky part for having a worm compost is getting the worms, because there's not really any worm dealers out here in Hawaii and you can't get them shipped in. But I know a pretty easy way to be able to harvest some worms of your own to start your system off. So be sure to keep an eye out for that video. So now that I've taken care of some energy hogging appliances and set up this compost system so I have some way to deal with my waste, but I also wanted to grow some food in a little garden. And so after some careful observation, I found a nice spot close to home where we can easily keep an eye on what we had growing. It's what we call in permaculture the zone 1 of our property. Zone design speaks to identifying areas that are heavily trafficked down to areas that you seldom visit, and placing elements in those areas based upon how much you need to visit them. So an annual vegetable garden needs daily care, whereas a fruit tree you may only have to visit once or twice a year. So you may as well put that vegetable garden close to home and the fruit tree a little bit further out. That's why we put this garden right here. Nothing big. I built it out of pallets. It was completely free. It's probably gonna rot in a year or so, but who cares? This garden you're looking at cost $10 because I got a load of cinder as filler. But I also filled it with scavenged soil and compost, aged mulch, and some horse manure. So now I have a place to grow food. And eventually I want to be growing more. I will expand out a few more annual beds, but I mainly want to focus on fruit trees, because annual vegetable gardening is hard work, whereas fruit trees take a lot less labor for a pretty good return. So I've been setting out to grow my own fruit trees. I've been saving seeds from the fruit I eat and potting them up, and I've been building out a wide variety of edible fruits, nuts, nitrogen fixers, all the way from the canopy level down to the ground cover. That way, when I'm ready to actually get my food forest growing, I won't have to pay for anything. And in the meantime, if I don't actually use some of these plants, I can go ahead and sell them and make money to fund other parts of my homestead. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. You may as well start getting a nursery set up while you're spending some time to observe your site, to really understand where things want to go. So I'll be diving in more on how to set up a nursery of your own in future videos. But in the meantime, why don't you just plant your finger down on the like button right down there. All right, thanks guys. So now here I am, still observing and planning on what to do next. I do know these things though. Start close to home, implement small and slow solutions, make hay while the sun shines, ensure every element performs multiple functions, every project must generate a surplus, reuse resources instead of paying for them, and produce no waste. If you follow those guidelines and keep them in mind while you're observing your property, you'll begin to come up with a plan in no time. Eventually, I plan on expanding my compost operation with worms. I plan on building a few more raised beds to grow more annuals close to home. We're accumulating more pots to grow herbs in right outside our doorstep. And I'm going to start growing some mushrooms in buckets and probably on some logs in the forest. And I'm going to have a compost toilet again, no matter what my wife says. And once we get more funds, I'm going to install a water tank for my nursery, and eventually I'll get rid of that energy guzzling hot water heater that's installed in this house and put in a solar hot water heater system instead. But all that will come with time and money. I am hoping to hook up with the NRCS grant, which will help fund things like the water tank, some soil, some fencing, so that I don't have to pay for it all myself. That's another good reason to be patient with your projects. It all will happen over time. I think of it this way. If I get 1 or 2 projects done a week, over a few years, I'm going to have the homestead of my dreams. So why rush it? By taking your time and observing your site and really understanding what is needed, you'll end up having a much cooler homestead than if you jumped into things and tried to do everything all at once. Small and simple is the solution, guys. Now, a lot of the first steps that I've been taking today really don't require much for you to get started. But as you begin to observe and plan on developing your site, coming up with a design on paper is pretty key, because it's a lot easier to use an eraser to move things than it is to have to dig it all up and move it somewhere else on your property in real time. So to learn more about creating a design for your property, check out this video right here. It'll show you how to create a simple base map for your property, and then part 2, it'll dive deeper into zone design and how to place certain elements in your property. Those videos will have everything you need to create a solid design for your new homestead. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ahui ho.